And here I was just watching something that was shared with me featuring Jerry Seinfeld, and it had to do with the Coney Island infant incubators. And the interviewer asks him about his history, and he says his father was an incubator baby. And the interviewer laughs as if he doesn't believe him. And I'm going to play that for you.
Early 1900s, my dad was an incubator baby.
And very strange. Of course, we've talked about this before, but in short, between 1854 and 1929, the relocating of about 200,000 orphaned, abandoned, abused, or homeless children took place. A very sad story, something in between acting as if they're doing a noble thing for these children and at the same time benefiting the needs for labor, for farmers, and even for the railroads. Here they're showing us advertisements placed in papers encouraging the adoption of children. Here we can see a poster. A number of children brought from New York are still without homes. Please call and see them. And often they were treated like farm animals. Their teeth were inspected. They were made to do push-ups and other tests of fitness. This program originally said to be started by this man, Charles Loring Brace, and we're told in the 1850s there was up to 30,000 homeless children in New York City, and New York City's population at the time was 500,000. And this guy has this great idea to start shipping them across the country. In this early time period, some cities barely even getting started, barely laying the tracks to these supposed newly constructed cities. We're told these children were often known as street Arabs. Brace believed that street children would have better lives if they left the poverty of New York City and were instead raised by morally upright farm families. And in short, these children were ultimately slaves, not sold for the love and care of a new family, but rather for their ability to labor. And I think this whole story is a lot more twisted than this simple and seemingly well-intended narrative. The children were told, "Your parents are not your parents. Your life begins when you are chosen."
Do either of you have any sense of how far back your ancestries go in New York? Have you ever?
Yeah, I mean, mine came in the 1920s from Ireland, from Northern Ireland.
Mine about the same, early 1900s. My dad was an incubator baby in Coney Island. He was on display. They had just invented the incubator. It was.
You could literally tell me anything, I'd believe.
No, it's true.
Yeah. Do either of you have any sense of how far back your ancestries go in New York? Have you ever?
Yeah, I mean, mine came in the 1920s from Ireland, from Northern Ireland.
Mine about the same, early 1900s. My dad was an incubator baby in Coney Island. He was on display. They had just invented the incubator. It was.
You could literally tell me anything, I'd believe.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
There seems to be some issues with the topic. One, the believability of it. Now, people are very, 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 very brainwashed. So the idea that white people were slaves and they were slaves for such a long period of time, it can't fit around people's thoughts when they have been bred to believe that they were actually the slave. So if you're a person of color and you've been taught that you were a slave, you find it utterly ridiculous when you hear, oh, Caucasians were slaves. White Africans were also slaves. In fact, most people believe that the Caucasians of the North and the white Africans of the South are one and the same, and they're just all European.